of three. First order of business is, well, actually, item 2 is roll call. Ms. Breheny? Ms. Tessmer?
Here.
Mr. Sherritt?
Here.
Mr. Browner?
Here.
Ms. Hatfield?
Here.
Ms. Farrell is here. And next, we move on to the approval of our minutes from the July meeting. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Ms. Breheny? Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Browner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell, aye. It approves. Okay, moving on. We'd like to hear from our city attorney, please.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustments and Appeals. This is the board comprised of members of our community. They're volunteer members. They are appointed by our city commission, and the board is comprised of members that will listen and decide requests for variances from our land development code, where literal enforcement of the code would create an undue burden or unnecessary hardship, and we're granting that variance wouldn't be contrary to public interest. The way the procedures will work this morning, our chairperson will call each applicant forward. If you could state your name and address for the record, and also give a brief description of what you are requesting for your variance. Staff will be able to also present some information. Our board members will be able to ask any questions, and if there are any members from the community that are here that would like to speak for or against a particular variance, they'll be given an opportunity to do so as well. I would ask, if you're planning to speak today, I'm going to need to swear you in, so if you could stand at this time and raise your right hand if you're planning to speak. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to our chairperson.
So with that, we call our first case, owner Ryan Beaudelet. Yes, and
If anyone feels more comfortable sitting, as long as we can hear you and you can speak into the microphone, that's fine as well.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ryan Beaudelet. I live at 905 Clearview Avenue.
Thank you.
we have a request for a 2-foot variance to allow a maximum fence height of 8 feet in lieu of the maximum height of 6 feet for residential fences and walls in rear yards specified by figure 4.1-1 of the of the Land Development Code, to allow for an 8-foot high fence in the rear yard area approximately 3 feet from the north street side property boundary on the property located at 905 Clearview Avenue. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, I think it's actually 13 feet, not 3
13
feet.
What is it for you? Yeah.
Oh, I need new glasses. Thank you. Yes,
Yes.
corrected for the record. Thank you.
And yes, so my property slopes down towards Lake Horny, and there's an area there where there's cars that park and there's public fishing that happens. And because of that, the way my house is situated is it's actually about 5 feet above the rear of the property. So we're asking for the 2-foot variance to kind of allow some privacy from that fishing area for my children and everything while they're swimming and in the pool. Because with a 6-foot at the very back, it essentially is below the height of the lanai where the back of my house is. So,
Good morning. Audrey McGuire, Senior Planner with Community and Economic Development. This property is at 905 Clearview. It is just east of Lake Horny, which would be on the other side of Euclid Avenue over in this direction. This is a picture of the existing fence that is there. They are requesting, as Mr. Beaudelet said, a 2-foot variance to allow for an 8-foot fence height. The existing fence does exceed 8 feet in height in places, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. It does not meet our uniform size standards of the Land Development Code. Per our records, the fence was installed without a permit. We were not able to find a permit, but it was installed sometime between 2011 and 2019 from what we are able to tell. We're not able to make a determination as to whether or not it was installed without a permit prior to Mr. Beaudelet purchasing the property or not. And it, again, is the subject of some code enforcement violations. But as Mr. Beaudelet said, there is about a 5-foot differential between the front property line and the rear property line. You can see that the property does slope down significantly. They are asking for an 8-foot fence to ensure some privacy along this area to the properties to the north. This is an image standing at the rear of the yard, and you can see how high that lanai sits above the existing pool, as this would be your typical front grade of the home, and this being about 5 feet difference from that. So staff's recommendation was for approval, but with the condition that the applicant conform to the uniform size standards. So any boards that are greater than 8 feet in height be cut down or replaced, not to exceed 8 feet, and any boards that are shorter would be replaced to create that uniform 8-foot height. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Do you have any comment from community?
We did not. We did speak with a neighbor out on site when we did our site visit. They had no objections.
Are you repairing or are you replacing? The fence?
So the boards that are taller, I would be
You're
cutting,
just- Okay.
cutting, and then I would be replacing any of the boards that are, yeah.
I believe the code enforcement complaint came about when he had the, I guess the pool built, was that last year or so, or?
Yes, yes, and so we had removed, yeah.
Yeah, he had removed part of the fence line then, and then I guess that was maybe what caught the interest of code enforcement, but as Audrey indicated, it has been there longer than that, but we had no record that it was ever permitted. So the design is very unusual. I mean, typically we see more uniform type designs here, so that would be our one concern, that we apply that requirement uniformly. So we are recommending it to be approved, subject to that condition.
Understood. Thank you. Do you have any other questions from the board? Do you have a move for approval?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Brahani? Yes. Ms. Tesmer? Yes. Mr. Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield? Yes. And the chair votes aye. Okay.
We open that for public comment. Did we ask for anyone? Was here from the
Oh,
neighborhood?
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Do we have any comment from the floor?
I guess we do.
Nope. No, we're good. Thank you. Okay, it's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too, thank you. Okay, next case, we have from O2 Apartments, the Lunds Group.
And just for the record, we have a member, Ms. Brani, who is actually employed by the Lunds Group, so she has a conflict and cannot vote on this matter because there's a pecuniary interest involved. So she has filled out the applicable paperwork that'll be filed with our secretary for the board, just for the record. So she will not be voting. And just to make it clear, we need 5 affirmative votes for passage of the request as well.
So we have a request for a 3-foot setback variance from 5 feet rear setback requirement for accessory structure to result in a new rear setback of 2 feet. Request of a 4-foot height variance from 12-foot 6 inches max height requirement for accessory structure to result in a new max height of 16 feet 6 inches in order to match the slope of accessory structure roof to slope of primary building roof. Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Hi, my name is Courtney Schichtel. I'm from the Lens Group at 58 Lake Morton Drive, Lakeland, Florida 33801. And we are requesting a 3-foot variance to allow a rear setback of 2 feet in lieu of the 5-foot minimum setback specified by the Land Development Code, as well as a 4-foot variance to allow a max height of 16 feet 6 inches in lieu of the max height of 12 feet 6 inches for accessory structures specified in the Land Development Code. And this is for the construction of a detached garage on the property. And we do have the owner of the property present in case any questions are directed for him.
Good morning. For the record, Todd Varga with Community and Economic Development. The property is located on the west side of Lake Morton. It consists of a 4-story office building, which was constructed in 1984. The subject property has an O1 low-impact office zoning classification, a future land use designation of residential high. The applicant is proposing to convert the structure from professional office uses to multifamily residential, which is allowed in the O1 zoning. As part of the conversion, they are requesting a variance to construct a new 48-foot by 24-foot detached garage in the rear yard area to provide secure parking for the residents. This is the property. I'm sure we all recognize it if you've driven around Lake Morton. You know this is the office building again on the west side. This is the rear of the property, which you probably have never seen unless you drive up Louise Place, which is that road there, the brick paved road. And the garage will go back here along this western property line. Better look here. Again, it'll go along this western property line. To accommodate the garage, the applicant is requesting a 3-foot variance to allow a 2-foot setback from that rear or western property line, as well as a 4-foot variance to allow a maximum roof height of 16.5 feet. The justification for the setback relief pertains to the relatively small size of the parcel and the need to accommodate vehicle access and turning movements when entering and exiting the site from Louise Place. I'm going to go to the site plan right now and you'll see. So here's the proposed garage. Here's Louise Place. So Lake Morton Drive is over on this side. As you come up or down Louise Place and you turn in to the rear parking lot, they really do need the variance to the setbacks to be able to make this turning radius and turn into this garage, which will house, be large enough to house 4 vehicles. The justification for the height variance is pertains to the steep roof slope on the existing office building, which the detached garage, which you'll see here, is designed to match. Slope of the garage will match the slope of the existing building. Again, the garage will accommodate a total of 4 vehicles. You see that up here? It's 4 garage doors. And those doors will face towards the building. They'll face to the east. So you'll swing in off of Louise Place and then swing in to your parking spot. Adjacent uses to the north, south, and west are off-street parking lots or structured parking facilities, which again, so back to this, standing in the rear yard, looking where the garage is going to be, you can see that there is already some retaining walls there that are, I wish I'd had my measuring tape when I was out there, but I think this western or rear wall is probably at least 5 or 6 feet tall. And this one on the south side is about 4 or 5 feet tall. So when looking from the neighboring or the adjacent properties, you're really not going to see a 16.5-foot garage because it's already, it's going to be below the retaining wall there. So this is from the property to the west, and And there's the back of the existing building that's going to be turned into multifamily residential. And you can just barely see the recycling container there, which is a good ways away from the wall here, if you look how far that is. And then on this next photos from the property to the south, which again is a parking lot, and you can see the top of the retaining wall, and the garage will be located right here. Again, here's the site plan. Here's the elevation for the new garage. Here's a black and white drawing provided by the Lunds Group. See the garage in the background. And then here's a color rendering of what it'll look like when it's all done. I guess they'll be adding some balconies to the front of the building, but that's neither here nor there with the request for the garage. Staff recommends approval. The amount of relief requested is proportionate to the degree of hardship resulting from the relatively small parcel size, as well as the access constraints from Louise Place. Again, this Louise Place right here. The detached garage is compatible in terms of scale, massing, and roof, sloped with the existing building. The requested relief is reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship and the minimum amount necessary to allow for development of the detached garage. Approval of a variance would not be contrary to the public interest, and provided that there are no substantive objections from adjacent property owners, staff recommends the request be considered for approval. If you have any questions, I'm here, and the representative from the Lunds Group is here, but see if the public has anything.
Do we have any comments for or against, or to discuss? No? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, motion to approve in a second. Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield? Yes. Ms. Farrell votes aye. Okay, we have 5 approvals. It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have location at 3000 Pyramid Parkway. Coming up to speak. Thank you. Okay, we have a request for a 2-foot variance to allow a maximum wall height of 8 feet in lieu of the maximum height of 6 feet for residential fences and walls in street side yards specified by figure 4.4-1 of the Land Development Code to allow for the construction of an 8-foot-high privacy wall in the northeast corner of property located at the southwest corner of US Highway 98 North and Griffin Road, which is 3000 Pyramid Parkway. Who do I have?
My name is Misty Weilman. I'm at 6119 West Horizon Drive in Port Richey, 34668.
Hey,
And
please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Philip Scarce, Principal Planner with Community and Economic Development. The applicant has recently went through commercial site plan approval for a 288 multifamily apartment complex on this 26-acre site located at the southwest corner of Griffin Road and US 98. The affected fence what we're talking about is runs along this portion of the property here, which is adjacent to the Griffin Road 98 interchange. They're asking for an 8-foot privacy wall along this line here, and I'll show you some photographs of this area taken last week. So this is looking west on Griffin Road. You can see the site's under construction. They've already got their silt fences up here, and you'll see a better picture of construction in the background. Progressing towards this area, and also have a site plan showing the development here. So this is looking east on Griffin Road, back towards US 98. And this is, again, looking east into the site. This is looking southeast on Griffin. And this is standing right in the intersection. You can see the construction in the background, the cell fences here. So there'll be a building constructed approximately in this area here. So they're asking for this 8-foot privacy wall adjacent to 98. This is the approved site plan. So you can see here, there's a multifamily structure located here, and this is where the wall would be. The applicant has agreed to supplement the wall with 20-foot long sections of decorative aluminum fencing at regular space intervals, so we're not looking at just a blank wall here. The primary reason for the request is the proximity of the development to US 98 and Griffin Road, which generates a substantial amount of traffic and noise. US 98 is a major arterial and carries over 33,000 daily trips. Griffin Road is an urban collector, and that carries over 14,900 daily trips, and that's according to Polk County's roadway network database. And incidental research from previous zoning cases when we're studying intersections, safety, and things like that. This is also one of the most dangerous intersections in the city. So we feel that the 8-foot fence request is justified, or 8-foot wall is justified along this portion of the site. It'll run 490 feet again here. Just about one more slide. Yes, and this is a graphic of what the area will look like. So you'll have the wall in these orange sections here, then you'll have the 20-foot aluminum panels, and then it will provide a gate to get out there to the intersection. And FDOTs also have some scheduled improvements to the intersection, some pedestrian enhancements here as well. So the residents of the apartment complex will be able to get out through one of these gates and be able to cross Griffin or US 98 safely. So the requested relief is reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship suffered by the applicant, and approval would not be contrary to public interest. Provided there are no substantial objections from adjacent property owners, staff does recommend the variance be considered for approval subject to the following conditions. The massing of the 8-foot wall shall be visually broken up through the incorporation of 4 20-foot long sections of 8-foot high decorative metal fencing at regularly spaced intervals along the wall, which you see here, which they've agreed that they will do. The metal fencing section may contain ADA compliant gates to provide access to pedestrians and non-motorized vehicles. And during our review, staff did not receive any calls or emails in objections to the request. And I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Receive any objections, did you receive anything in approval of it or talking about it at all? Nothing at all. And in regard to pedestrian and motor vehicle and even bicycle traffic, are there hindrances to line of sight, to vision as you're leaving the area or you're coming into the area? What's the likelihood of accident? Is it any more increased?
We didn't feel any. This was reviewed by our traffic operations. They didn't have any objections, so I don't think they'll.
It's a signalized intersection.
And it's signalized, and everything has all the signals are there for for the crosswalks and everything. And again, DOT will be there's improvements. There's scheduled improvements at this intersection as well. There is a Starbucks that's targeted, that's going across the street there. So that will probably be a very popular destination for the residents, and definitely safety is in our minds. But and FDOT and while we were in that review, those safety enhancements were noted. Yes.
excuse me if I missed it, but did you say how far that fence or the wall would be set back from the road or the right-of-way?
It's going to be on the property line, but I don't
Okay.
know, I don't have a distance from the right of way. My apologies. Let me see here.
I saw it on the last slide, on one of the slides. Thought I saw 16 and a half feet down in the bottom.
There it is, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Bronner.
Awesome, thank you.
If you want to ask if there's anyone from the audience that would speak for or against.
Again, I'm sorry. Do we
No,
have
that's okay.
anybody who would like to speak for or against? No? Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, I do have one question, sorry.
Okay.
I think you said this, but I want to verify. So this site plan has already been approved through
It has.
commercial site plan development?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so this is, okay. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Berhenny?
Yes.
Ms. Tesmer? Yes. Mr. Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield?
Yes.
Ms. Farrow votes aye. Okay, motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Carrie W. Dickens Jr. We have a request for a 190 feet variance to allow a front yard setback of 225 feet in lieu of the maximum front yard setback of 35 feet specified by Table 3.4-1 of the Land Development Code to allow for the construction of a new single-family home on property located at 1825 Providence Road. Thank you. And are you Mr. Dickens Jr.?
Ma'am, I'm Preston Chapman.
And hi, Mr.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Preston Chapman, 3969 Spruce Creek Drive, Lakeland, Florida.
How can we assist you today with your request?
So the request basically comes from utilizing the property in its totality. It's approximately 4.85 acres, and I wanted to utilize it to build a house, my family's home, pretty much in conjunction with other homes in the area of Providence Road. A, for safety reasons, B, for just the noise that comes from Providence Road. I do have a toddler that likes to roam, and so taking the totality of my animals, family, things of that nature, along with the other homes in the area, that's why I requested for the variance. You're welcome.
Hello, good morning. I'm Damaris Stahl, Senior Planner with Community Economic Development. As mentioned, the property is zoned RA4 within the single-family residential district in the urban neighborhood context sub-district. This request is for 190 feet variance to minimum setback of 225 feet from the right-of-way of Providence Road. Providence Road is classified as a collector roadway. The maximum front yard setback within an RA4 adjacent to a collector roadway is 35 feet. The subject property is approximately 4.85 acres east of Providence Road. Here's Providence, and this is the entire property. In June of 2023, a demolition permit was issued to raise an existing single-family dwelling unit that was located on the property. Following images are of the property here. This here is facing, this is the southwest boundary of the property facing east into the property. As you can see, the complete demolition of the existing driveway that was originally there in the home. This is the southern boundary facing east towards the proposed home location. And this is the northern boundary facing west towards Providence Road. And you can see the property to the west there, the home sets back fairly back towards their properties. It's not even visible from Providence. The applicant's justification for the request pertains to the need for privacy on this large lot. Rural development patterns associated with the subject property and adjacent parcels located along Providence Road. The immediate vicinity of series of large single-family lots are variable front setbacks. The front setback relief mirrors that of the existing home located to the west side of Providence Road. And as a secondary justification, the applicant is employed with the law enforcement, and the setback relief request would provide greater degree of protection and security. The request relief is reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship associated with the large parcel size and the rural development patterns of the properties nearby. Approvals of this request would not be contrary to public interest, as it impacts on adjacent property owners would be minimum. Provided that there's no objections from adjacent property owners, staff recommends that the variance be considered for approval. I didn't receive any for or against letters or emails or phone calls for this variance for this property.
Matt, this might be something you know or you know. When was the land development code changed to require the current minimum 35-foot setback? I assume in the past it was either non-existent or it was a significantly larger amount.
Correct. The maximum front setback was established as part of the currently development code when it was adopted in 2013, so it's been almost 10 years. For older parcels like this, I mean, this is probably it is an RA4, but the subdivision of the land is very sort of rural in character. These are almost 5-acre lots. They're very deep. So obviously it does not work very well in that context there. So we acknowledge that this is a unique circumstance. So that's why we are recommending approval there.
And then you said the home to the west, that would be across the street, is the one that has the existing 225 setback?
Yes, on the west side. I don't know if Damaris can bring up the aerial. You can maybe see.
Looks like two above it, too.
Do any of the adjacent properties to the north and south, or the north doesn't, but does the
Yeah, they're
south-
variable. There's one, a couple lots north. You can see it's
Yeah.
setback
Yeah.
quite far. Then the one even there's a little bit closer, but it really varies depending on when they were.
It's not like the whole block is uniform at 35 feet right now.
No.
Yeah, okay.
What is behind the property?
It is just trees and woods.
I think it backs up to a large tract of state-owned wetlands, I believe. It's never going to be developed, so, you know, it's a really rather unique area, so.
And it's not protected land or anything?
Not their portion, no.
Any other questions?
I guess I just had one more, sorry. I noticed in the application, it mentioned a lot split. Do we need to address that at all?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Long-term, the applicant has plans maybe to split up the property to create another buildable lot, I believe, for a relative there. But that's not part of this request today.
Do you have any questions or comments from the gallery? No? Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Brandy?
Yes.
Ms. Tesper? Yes. Mr. Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell votes yes. All right, motion is approved, sir. Thank
Thank you.
you for your service.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good day.
Next up, we have 837 Meadowlark Drive. Mr. Timothy, I hope I don't mispronounce this name, Vonderfetch? We have at 837 Meadowlark Drive, a request for a 10-foot variance to allow a 5-foot rear yard setback in lieu of the 15-foot minimum rear yard setback specified by the PUD Planned Unit Development Zoning for Sandpiper Golf and Country Club in order to construct a screen room with a hard roof on property located at 837 Meadowlark Drive. Hello, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's David Tavlin. My address is 10509 Strauss Road, Lakeland, 33810, I think.
Thank you. Please.
And I'm a little hard of hearing, and I've been having a hard time hearing you with your
Hearing
microphone.
me? I'll speak up a little louder.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me that. Yes, and how can I help you today?
And I'm sorry.
Please go ahead with your request.
Yeah, this is another lot on Meadowlark that we're developing on the edge of the golf course. It's right off the back of the first green, and as Sandpiper being a smaller golf course, you might say we get the lower tier of golfers that come out once a month, and then when Wedgwood closed, we got their lower tier of golfers. So it's, we wear helmets just to build the houses, really. I mean, it's bad. As soon as we put a window in, we've got to put styrofoam up. It's pretty close to the first green. We're going to try and do a water feature to keep guys from even driving their golf carts up in yards. But this is the fifth one of 5 on Meadowlark and the last one of 5 on Meadowlark. But it's needed. They're pretty tight.
Said thank you. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Audrey McGuire, Community and Economic Development. So, as Mr. Tavlin stated, this is located at 837 Meadowlark Drive. They're requesting a 10-foot variance from the required 15-foot setback to allow a 5-foot setback for a hard-roofed screen room. So hard-roof screen rooms are required to meet principal setbacks of the zoning district. This is located within the Sandpiper development, and a similar variance request was approved last month for the property just here to the west. The subject property is located adjacent to hole 1 of the golf course. It is fairly close, and the applicants are requesting the variance to allow the addition of the hard screen room on the lot. It would provide some protection from stray golf balls out on site. So this would be the site plan. The area in blue would be the screen room addition on the back, showing that 5-foot setback. This is just looking southeast towards the first hole. It kind of gives you an idea of just how close the first hole and putting green would be to this property. And this is the location of where that screen room would be. So the request would not be contrary to public interest. We didn't receive any comments at all, either for or against, for this request. Similar requests have been approved throughout the Sandpiper development, so staff's recommendation for it was for approval.
I also own the golf course, by the way, so I guess I'm the only neighbor kind of in the back anyway.
Understood. Thank you. Any questions? Nothing. Do we have any discussion or anything from the gallery? No? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Brani?
Yes.
Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sharrett?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield?
Yes.
Ms. Farrell votes yes. Thank you, it's been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward, we have the property at 519 North Stella Avenue. There we go, thank you. We have a request for a 2-foot variance to allow a 3-foot interior side yard setback in lieu of the 5-foot minimum setback specified for swimming pools in Table 4.3-3 of the Land Development Code to allow for the construction of a 13-foot by 50-foot in-ground swimming pool in the interior side or south yard of property located at 519 Stella Avenue. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, I'm Sarah Kaler, and I'm currently living at 504 East Bay, Lakeland 33801.
Thank you. And how can we help you?
We're requesting the variance so that we can have the pool set along the side of our house that has the most windows. I'm a stepmother to 2 stepkids, and we have friends with children, and so we're wanting to make sure that the pool is positioned where we can see what's going on in the pool from any place in our living areas on the first floor. And I believe our neighbors also along the side that would be affected by it emailed that they would be okay with this as well.
Thank you very much.
Again, Audrey McGuire, Community Economic Development. So the subject property is located at the south east corner of Stella Avenue and Magnolia Street. It is a new construction building. The applicants are requesting, again, a variance, a 2-foot variance to the 5-foot required interior side yard setback for swimming pools. That is measured from the edge of water so that they can have a 3-foot setback instead for the construction of a 13-foot by 50-foot pool. This is showing the floor plan of the house. As the applicants have stated, the request comes from the optimal position of the pool based on the floor plan of the house being in that interior side yard. I will note from staff's perspective, there is adequate space in the rear yard, but the request is due to the floor plan layout of the home as she has stated. These are just photos looking at the property from the north on Stella Avenue at that interior side yard. So the pool, if approved, would be placed in this generalized area. And as you can see, this is where that patio area is at. I will note the property is located within the Parker Street SPI, or Special Public Interest District. That district does not provide any standards for pools. It does provide some provisions for accessory dwelling units and existing structure setbacks, things like that, but any new construction and any accessory structures associated with that are required to meet the Land Development Code standards. Given that this request is self-imposed just based off of the layout of the home, and given that there is an alternative available, this would set precedent. Staff was not able to recommend approval.
Let's see, thank you. Can you show me where the pool would be and where it's being requested to move to again?
The pool would be in this area, and then this is the rear yard, just showing that there is adequate space available, and there is access to the rear as well.
And that's where it would go if we don't approve today?
Staff wasn't making a recommendation on the location, just that there is an alternative available.
What building is that in the photo?
This is the rear of the home.
Oh, that's the rear. Okay, got it.
But answer your question, if they're denied, their option would be either to reduce the size of the pool to meet the 5-foot setback or move the pool into the rear yard.
That's just the apron, the concrete apron threw me off. Is that?
Yeah, that's existing. So there was previously a residence and an accessory unit on this property. Those were demolished, and they are building new
Okay, so
construction.
this is looking in at the backyard from the side
Correct.
of the house. Okay. From Magnolia Street. Okay.
Questions? Take your time, it's okay.
So this application, staff kind of, I'll say struggled with, but because of the self-imposed nature, I mean, that's why we really cannot recommend approval. So, I mean, I think the neighbor next door is indicated that they're okay with it. We did talk with the building department. They determined that there would be any issue with having the pool that close to the property line. Right now, there are not any structures on the adjacent property that would be potentially impacted by having a pool that close to the property line. I believe the pool at its deepest is 6 feet deep at the east end. I think Mr. Sherry being a contractor, there's some kind of angle repose. You typically have a horizontal separation for anything with a like a foot or foundation that could be undermined there. But if the neighbor next door, let's say they want to build a wall at some point or a shed, there could be possible impacts, but we would not have the control over that in the future, being that close to the property line.
That's a hypothetical situation we can't answer right now. And when we're saying that if this is approved, it would create a precedent for similar variances, do we know if there's been a similar request in the past?
And generally, when we consider these types of variances, it's for an older home that was built decades ago, and the current owner, they did not create the hardship there. And we look at it on a case-by-case basis. But in this case, because it is new construction, when they were planning the home, they really should consider that location, that pool, when they were laying it out there. So that would really be why we would hesitate here.
So it was designed in a spot and then said, no, maybe over here.
Well, yes, what thought about at the time when they were building the house, said, where do we want to have a pool here? And we'll be able to accommodate it here and meet the code requirements. For a matter of history, the current setback of 5 feet has only been in effect since 2013 when the current code was adopted. Prior to that time, it would have been a 12-foot setback. So it was greatly reduced from where it was historically. So 5 feet is really sort of the bare minimum for an in-ground pool.
Was the pool planned at the time of the house, or was that an afterthought?
That was after for us. So again, we were just trying to put it where we would be able to supervise it the best. May I ask a question? So if we don't receive the variance, we would still be able to build the pool skinnier perhaps there? For us, it's just a safety issue. I wouldn't imagine that we would put it around behind, because if you look, there's so few windows along the south or the other side of the house.
It could still, so the land development code does allow for it to be placed in interior side yards. It just would have to meet that 5-foot setback.
So they would either have to reduce the width or the depth of the pool, kind of shift it over. So that would be for the homeowner and their pool contractor to figure out how that would work if they have to redesign the pool.
So just so I have an understanding, were you involved in the development of this property? Were you working with the home developer from when it was just a dirt lot, or did the developer develop the home and then you purchased it after it was built?
No, we had helped them he gave us these plans and we approved them, and then we were looking at trying to put a pool in. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sometimes home developers buy a lot, they build a house, then they sell that home. It's already built to people. Sometimes they find a homeowner that wants to build a home, they have a lot, or you have a lot, and then, so it was the latter of those two.
Yes, this
Okay.
gentleman was connected with Parker Street, and we wanted to be in that neighborhood.
Understood, okay.
Any other questions?
I don't.
Do you have any questions or statements from the audience? Gallery? Nothing? Do we have a motion for approval or denial?
Motion to deny.
Second. We have a motion to deny on the floor. We have a second. Ms. Breheny? Ms. Tessmer? Mr. Sherritt?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield? Yes. Ms. Farrell, yes. The motion is denied. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Mr. Emmanuel Baez Rosario, 1805 Providence Road, a request for a 2-foot variance to allow a maximum fence height of 6 feet in lieu of the maximum height of 4 feet for residential fences and walls in front yards as specified by Figure 4.4-1 of the Land Development Code to allow for a 6-foot-high wall with horizontal wood panels and a decorative metal gate adjacent to the front property line on property located at 1805 Providence Road. Yes, sir, please state your name and address.
Jefferson Valencia,
Thank you.
212 Spyglass Court, Tampa, Florida.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and
The request is because we replaced a 6-foot chain link fence that was there with this beautiful fence. And as you can see, it doesn't really bother any of the neighbors. So,
Yeah, so good morning. Philip Scarce, Principal Planner with Community Economic Development. The applicant is out of the country and asked his friend to speak on his behalf, which is very nice. This is property located just south of the other parcel you've just heard on at 1825 here. This is 1805. Single-family zoning on this 4.85 acre lot. There is an existing home. According to the property appraiser, it was built in 1945, and that it is closer to the road. And when I did did a couple site visits, and I could tell that the applicant did spend a considerable amount renewing, reconstructing the existing home there, and doing the remodel. It's a beautiful home, but and along with that, they built this fence wall combo here along the property line, or just back of the property line. We did confirm with surveys that it's not encroaching in the right of way. Fence was built without a permit, and the applicant did apply for subsequent building permits for this fence wall, where we stated that you have to go through the variance process to have it there at this location. The fence runs along the front property line for approximately 166 feet. There was no justification with the application, but staff that appears to be justified by the proximity to the single-family home located on Providence Road and the large lot and rural development pattern that we've established in this area for adjacent properties. Providence Road has a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour, and it's a urban collector, and it does carry a considerable amount of trips. Carries over 7,000, almost 8,000 trips a day. And the proposed wall would act as a buffer from the traffic noise generated by the roadway. You can see the proximity of the existing structure to the road right of way. And let's go through here. This is looking southeast on Providence, back towards the electric substation. This is looking northeast on Providence. Again, the previous site that was heard is right next to this site. Looking across the street, you have single-family development here. And this is the survey, so the red are the property lines, and the fence you can see is about a foot back from that. And again, it's got a one-story single-family structure here. It's about 50 feet from the property line. It looks closer. Looks a lot closer than that. The property does kind of slope down once you go inside. Primary hardship suffered by the applicant is related to the proximity of the existing home of Providence Road and the need to buffer impacts associated with traffic generated by the roadway. The requested relief is reasonable and proportionate to the degree of hardship suffered by the applicant, and approval would not be contrary to the public interest. Provided there are no substantive objections from adjacent property owners, staff does recommend that the variance be considered for approval. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Did you receive any comment for or against?
I did not.
You did not. Okay. Do you have any questions?
It's only 4 feet that's allowed? I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Right, along the
On-
front
on the
yard
front.
and
it's-
residential,
And it's
you
measured
have
at
a-
6?
Yep,
6 to the top of the pillar or 6 to the top of the slat?
6 to the top of the pillar there.
Okay.
Well, actually, I mean, the caps would be considered decorative, so it would be the top of the, probably the wood fence panels of the columns.
Okay.
They're excluding the caps.
Okay.
And the top of the gate would be considered decorative there.
Yeah,
So normally, if they wanted to build this height, they would have to push the fence back 15 feet. But since this was done without a permit, obviously it's already there. And they will have to get engineer drawings for the permit, probably as-built for the footers. Heather's expected to go out there to confirm it meets the Board of Building Code.
They did. The building has already reviewed it, and they were okay. The variance was holding the approval of the permit up.
Got it. So they could have built this, the exact same specs, just it had to be 15.
15 feet back, right?
Okay.
And if you can tell, like, you can't really tell from this angle, but that driveway does kind of steep down. When I drove into the site, it kind of drops down.
Because this is the neighboring property to the,
Yes.
right, okay.
Yes.
What are the odds?
And why, silly question maybe, why was this built without a permit? Do we know?
I don't know. There were some code enforcement issues here a while back that the property owner has solved. He was running a trucking business here, and there was a lot of things in the back. You can still see some of the accessory things in which he's moving out. They're moving that business over to Lake Wales. But I think that he was just trying to resolve those code enforcement issues, but in his haste, he built this without the permits.
And so originally that property was used for business. It wasn't,
No, it's always been residential, but he bought it thinking he could do his trucking business there, and he was storing some trailers there. And so, like I said, during this process, he moved those to another site.
to the Lake Wales area,
Yes,
you said?
yes.
Okay. And there's now a residential?
There's always been a residential home there, and
Okay.
again, like I said, according to property appraiser, it was built around 1945. They did a remodel, and it's a very beautiful home, actually.
Excuse me, the purpose of the property now is residential?
Right.
The
Yes, ma'am.
existing property, I understand.
My guess is that was probably the subject of the code enforcement violations because
Probably.
the trucking business or whatever trucks were not supposed to be there. So like he said, it was always been residential, so that wasn't the issue, but.
Okay. Do we have any other questions?
Is there any concern with the height pulling out from the street onto the road?
No, ma'am.
Do we have anyone to speak? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Do we have anyone to speak? Yes, please. Please come up.
Come on up to the microphone.
Yes, if you can. Can you state your name and address, please, when you do? Thank you.
My name is Kenneth Bernard Graham. I live at 1047 Baycrest Drive. Matter of fact, I live directly behind that property there. I've been living there 66 years. And I don't know if he moved his trucks, but it's still a lot of trucks. They in and out of there all time of morning, waking us up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning every morning. I don't know where somebody put this fence because my property bears in the back of his property.
You said you're off Baycrest?
It's 1047 Baycrest Drive.
Okay.
That's my property line where it say subject property. That's my property in the corner right there,
Oh, I see.
right there. And we just found out that the city used to claim that property, well, the county, because that was a county area at first. And the city grandfathered it over and bought it out. Because I had to come here to the same court to have my sewage redid when they put that canal from his property.
We have been working with the applicant, and he has, like I said, he stated he was moving his business. There may be some ancillary things going on still. I will notify him, but those code enforcement issues don't relate to the fence request. at this time, but we definitely will relay that to Mr. Rosario as,
Is that the violation is still open then? Has not been resolved?
I'm not sure if it's been resolved or not.
Okay,
I know
but-
I know he's been working with code enforcement and moving his business over to Lake Wales.
So, sir, your complaint is he's still using the property as a trucking business?
It's trucks in and out of there.
Again, that's been recently, like in the last week or so, or when was the last time you had,
Recently.
recently, how recent?
Well, I've been in the hospital for 4 days.
Okay.
But before I went to the hospital, trucks still in and out of there. He said itself over 18, what did he say, 1,800 vehicles going in and out of it. Early.
18 different, the big trucks, that's what you mean, the big trucks going in and out.
I mean, if you'd like to leave your contact information, we can forward to code enforcement and
Yeah,
have them
we'll
contact
notify.
you and they can follow up further more information. But that's concerning if they're still using that, because my understanding was that that was supposed to have ceased.
Yeah, my understanding as well. And like I said, we definitely relay that to Mr. Rosario. Again, he's been working with code enforcement to try to alleviate that. It may take a little more time, but again, that's not really related to the fence variance. Once everything is solved, he will have a single-family home there and just needs the fence for privacy. But we'll definitely relay those concerns to the code enforcement
Just
staff.
that the board doesn't have the authority to deal with, obviously, the code enforcement matters, but again, city staff can forward those issues to the appropriate folks to take care of that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So to be clear, the approval or denial of this variance doesn't have anything to do with whether or not there's still a business being run or not out of that residence.
Correct. Your decision should be based on the particular hardship here, and whether you feel it's justified for having this high of a fence/wall on the front property line.
Good, thank you.
Excuse me. By the way, all the trucks have already been moved to Lake Wells and all the equipment. So I seriously don't know where all the noise is coming from. It's not from trucks going in and out of there anymore. They used to be going in and out of there, but not anymore. Like they moved the trucks, I want to say back in February, maybe.
Move them in February of
January.
2023.
Maybe January, like, it's been a while. Like,
Yep, I know the applicant has some personal vehicles. He does, he has a truck and he has a trailer, and I know he has a boat that he stores back there. But yeah,
all the trucking business itself is moved already. Like,
This related
yeah,
is moved,
It's already
is what you're
moved.
saying. I
Yes.
understand. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Regarding the fence, you stated that there was a slope right when you go in.
Yes.
So if this were to come to us before it was actually built, would that be consideration for why we would approve a variance because of that slope?
it'd be one. We didn't really key in on the slope, just the proximity to Providence Road that the house sat. But you can tell through the photos that you can see the fence line is kind of, the house is down a little bit, so definitely provides some more privacy. But we didn't key in on the slope difference for the justification.
Typically fences in front yards, I mean, they're more decorative. I mean, they're not intended to be privacy fences per se. Those will be your side or rear yard there. But obviously, we have larger lots, state-sized properties. Typically, they do want a larger fences there to have, that kind of privacy, so.
I wish I had keyed in on the detail that he's on the decorative part. Anyway, it's actually a very nice fence, but yeah.
Thank you. And do we have any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve or deny? Motion to approve in a second. Ms. Brani?
Yes.
Ms. Tessmer?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Mr. Bronner?
Yes.
Ms. Hatfield? Ms. Farrell is no, but your motion is approved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
have any unfinished business?
I don't believe we have any unfinished business or new business. Going forward, I think the plan is still, we will possibly be back in the city commission chambers this time next month, but if not, just come over here for some reason that they're still not done, so, but that's.
Okay, just.
Should be able to let you know too beforehand. hopefully.
Yes.
I don't know, I found out this morning, so
The
none of
morning walk
us.
was nice. It's not so warm outside at that time of day.
True,
So
it's true.
it's nice.
Yeah, a little bit of exercise and.
Okay.
Regarding next meeting, is it pushed because Labor Day falls on Monday, the 4th?
It would actually be, because the commission meeting would be on that Tuesday, so I would imagine we would do the Wednesday,
It will be
that
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday, the 6th, correct?
So with that, thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.
Thank you.